I remember like the first time I drank, I felt nothing. I thought to myself, I could do anything and I can't get injured. I can't get hurt. I can't get sick. Like, I am invincible. And I rolled with that.
Welcome to Rise Above. I'm Kevin Lanning, your host, along with my co-host, two-time gold medalist Olympian, two-time lightweight champion of the world, Kayla Harrison. In today's episode, we sit down with Kat, a Florida native with 10 years of sobriety at the age of 29. She got sober when she was 19 and never had a legal drink. Her story is nothing short of a miracle, and the resilience and adversity faced makes her a true testament to rising above. Let's rise above with Kat.
The hair looks good.
Does it?
Yeah,
So
like,
good.
it's definitely.
Does it look good?
Great.
Really good.
Has it gotten longer since you saw me last?
Yeah, it's gotten. I was gonna comment on that actually. Right, almost. No, I didn't want to do it like right away, but it has definitely gotten more flowy.
There is length to that hair.
Yeah.
It's like thick, luscious. You got it.
No,
going.
it's super thick and lush.
Mhm.
Oh.
Okay.
Wow.
That's good.
Thank you, Kat.
You're welcome.
Thank you,
You have like
Kayla.
nice surfer highlights. You got it. You're good.
Thank you. Thank you, Mama Lanning. You're the best.
Kat, welcome.
Hello.
Welcome to Rise Above, where people with stories of adversity rise above. What's going on? How are you?
I'm good. I'm very nervous, but I'm good.
You're good.
You're nervous?
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
telling him earlier, I do great. Like, I can be in front of thousands of people
Mhm.
and do totally fine. And then in a small, intimate setting, I panic. It is just,
Why you think?
I have no clue. I think it's because the more, well, I want to say, like, it's harder to hold conversation with a small group when there's, like, a very large group. And then also, the less people, I feel like the more focus there is on me.
The more you're seen.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I don't like it. Like, I don't want to be looked at. I don't want to be judged. I'm like, what are they thinking? Like, you know, do they think this about me? Do they think that about me? And then with large crowds, I can just, like, zone out. I can, like, look across a sea of people and just zone out and have nothing in my head other than just, like, auto robot of
Yeah.
speaking.
Yeah. I get that. I feel the same. Well, I don't know if I feel the exact same, but so I used to give speeches and I had a speech coach for a little bit. And one thing he taught me that I think was really valuable was whether it's a crowd of 1,000 or a crowd of 5, like they're there because you have something to say that they want to hear.
I love that.
So even if you're in a small crowd, you have something to say that they want to hear.
That's what I always say. I'm like, I just want to help
You
one
definitely have
person.
something to say that we want to hear. So
I just want to help one person. If I can help one person, then, like, I've done my job. I'm happy. Like, as long as there's just one singular person who thinks that they got something beneficial out of what I said, whether it's good or bad,
yeah,
I'm satisfied.
me too. I feel the exact same. I
Yeah.
think that's how we make the world a better place, right?
Exactly.
Like, it doesn't have to be some big momentous, monumental act of whatever. You can just, like, smile at someone and
I always say that. I'm like, be nice to the random cashier at the grocery store. Like, be nice no matter where you are, because you never know what that person's going through, like, what their day looked like. Like, are you going to be the one person who decides that because of the act that you did, they don't want to kill themselves today?
Yeah, totally.
And I think everyone should think like that, because I see people, it's always in the grocery stores or, like, public settings, and people are
I
so rude. And
know.
I'm like, dude, this is not okay.
It's so funny you say that because I was at the doctor today and
Oh, doctor's offices are brutal.
Man, these people were being so mean to the ladies.
Mhm.
And I just, like, found myself, like, smiling, even though it was like they were an hour behind. Like, I'm a busy woman. Like, how dare you? Your time is more valuable than mine. But I was, like, watching how other people were interacting with them. And I was like, it's not their fault. And, like, me being a bitch isn't going to do anything about it anyway. So I might
No.
as well just, like, spread kindness and love.
I feel like anytime I react in that situation, which has been many times in my lifetime, it creates so much unmanageability in my head, and it ruins my day.
And then you like drive back later to apologize to them or call them, and you're like, I just really want to apologize for the way I behaved earlier.
Yeah.
No, I don't. I never like. I don't go back and apologize. I just carry that shame and guilt with me the rest of my life. No, that's good.
I've had times where I'm like, I need to find that person, and I like have to go apologize. I don't know why. I have to go apologize.
No, that's beautiful though.
What have you done in a situation where you needed to make amends to someone and you couldn't find them, or they were nowhere to be found?
Those ones are rough, but I just stick it to, I'm going to make living amends. I'm going to try to do better next time. Like, if this exact same situation occurs, then I'm going to handle it completely opposite of what I did in honor of that person.
Wow.
Ooh, I love that.
I do like that too.
I love that. Do you have an example that you're comfortable sharing?
So yeah, like when I was younger, I was bullied really badly, and then I ended up kind of becoming the bully at a different school. And so now I'm big, like I really dislike people who like bully or belittle other people. And I didn't do it like that harshly, but I still did it enough where I'm like so sensitive and empathetic. I like carried it with me for so long. So now when I see people bullying someone on, especially with social media these days, I can't stand it. But if I see someone bullying someone in public or being mean or like belittling, whether it's their looks or how they act or whatever it is, or their intelligence really gets me. I just try to like stop them. I try to remind them in like the most kind way that, hey, this behavior isn't okay. This isn't right to do.
That's so bad.
And then also try to like compliment the person who's being bullied and just like remind them.
Dang, so you confront them.
Yeah.
I love that.
No, absolutely.
Oh man, no, that's badass. No, I wish I did that. Because we all see it. No, that's awesome. We all see it, you know, or the perpetrator, you know.
Yeah.
So I like that. You're like, not only do I do better, but if I see something, I say something.
Yeah.
Have you ever had, Kayla, you have 2 kids. Do you have kids, Kat?
I don't have kids.
Okay. So did you ever have a run-in with, or a situation with your kids where they were bullying or they were being bullied?
Yeah. Actually, I remember so I adopted my kids, and it was like a very sudden thing. And it was during COVID, actually, and my daughter and my son were going to this, like, it was like a preschool for Emery, and like Kyla could take her schoolwork to this place and do it with other kids. Because I just was like, dude, you need to make friends. You can't be locked in this house with me.
For sure.
And one of the kids said to her, and she's 5 at this time. One of the kids, or 6. One of the kids said to her that your mom doesn't love you. That's why you're here. And yeah, that was probably the most heartbreaking. Like, oh, yeah, I probably didn't handle it the best.
Can you?
I don't know if I would have handled that situation the best either. I'm like fuming on the inside.
Yeah. So my sister is a drug addict and struggles with addiction and has been in and out of the system and in and out of prison. And yeah. So when the little kids said that, you know, they're a little kid. They're just saying things. And I realize now that the only reason a child would say something like that is because there's something going on in their own home or like in their own life that is unmanageable to them. And so they have to lash out and say things or whatever.
Yeah.
But at the time I was like, what in the, you know, I didn't say it to the kid, but I was just like, yeah, I had become kind of friends with the owners of the place. And I was like, I don't even know what to say. Like, where are their parents? And their parents were like very busy workaholics. Like,
so the kid felt the same way.
Yeah.
The kid was like, I'm the one who's not loved, and I'm just going to make everyone else feel this way.
Yeah.
It's like when someone relapses on something and they take everyone around them with them.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to feel as bad about themselves. So they're like,
get in, we're going to
person.
hell.
Yeah.
Did you ever have a close friend relapse and you were a potential victim of sinking in the ship with them?
I was in fact a victim of sinking in the ship with them. Yeah. She didn't try to like purposely have me do it with her, but like she tried to like sneak a shot when I wasn't looking, and I had turned around and I was like, well, if this girl's drinking, I'm drinking.
Ooh.
And I went like downhill quick, and she was like, whoa, like you need to slow down. And I'm like, all or nothing, baby, let's go.
Yeah. You one is too many, and 1,000 is
Yeah.
never enough. Wait, was alcohol your thing?
Yeah, so I'm like a hardcore like alcoholic, and this girl was, you know, she did, well, back then it was like Dilaudids.
Yep.
It wasn't like fentanyl. I don't even, it existed, but like in patch form at doctor's offices.
For sure.
So she like did Dilaudids, and she wasn't really an alcoholic, so she kind of like lit the alcoholic dragon in me, and it was just like a 4-day bender, and that was the last time I ever drank.
How long had you been sober before that?
Probably, I want to say like 9 months. And then now, you know, I'm coming up on 10 years, but
Congrats.
that was, thank
Congrats.
you.
Wait, hold on. Oh, yeah.
Hell yeah. That's why it's important about, you know, that old adage of like birds of a feather, and like it's important.
Yep.
Your crowd is, show me your crowd and I'll show you who you are.
I'm big on that. Like, especially the past couple of years, I realized I'm like, who am I surrounding myself? Like, where am I spending all my time? Like, what are the people around me doing? And that's been big on, you know, like my circle's gotten a lot smaller, and I've really kind of like kept to myself, and I love it. Like, I love doing that, but my life has just been like really quiet, and it gets boring sometimes. So I'm like, this is good. Like, this is all good.
When you grow up in chaos and uncertainty and like the fire, peace can be really boring at first.
Yeah.
That's what that has been my experience. When everything is like slow and, you know, there's no burning buildings to, like, I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
you
I'm
know,
like, what
like
can I set on fire?
I need some adrenaline. Yeah.
Need some action.
Yeah.
Chasing that action.
But I think, you said, obviously, 10 years now, you're settling into it. But how do you, so you're obviously in recovery and on a healing journey and have done amazing things. 10 years is no small feat. How do you balance being a light in the world and like helping people, like how you say you like confront people if they're bullying, or and like keeping your circle small? Because I struggle with that. I struggle with like, I want to help my friends or like people that I know, and I want to like give of my time and my energy and my resources, and but I also like need to take care of myself, and at a certain point people can drag you down and like slow you down or hold you back. And so how do you balance that? What do you
So there was a long time where it was like I had to, and I still get this feeling sometimes. My boyfriend was always like, you're gonna have FOMO if you don't go, and I'm like, no, I need to like chill. Like I just need to chill. But there was a long time where it was like I want to do everything. Like, even if I don't want to go, I want you to invite me. Like, I wanted to be friends with everybody. Like, I would not understand if somebody didn't like me. I didn't understand that. I would try to figure out why they didn't like me, what was going on. It would bother me. And now I just feel like everything is, I don't know, people grow up, they get married, they have kids, like this, that, the third, everything happens. Or I just get older and I'm like, I want peace. Like, I just want any sort of peace. I want the ocean, I want my dogs, I want like my simple, nice little beach life. I have my neighbors, I have like a few close friends, and it got to this point where when I had a lot of friends, I would get so burnt out. I was working, you know, I work in the mental health industry. I'm already burnt out from that. I'm trying to still go to the gym and surf and do all of these things, and then still go out until 2 a.m. with my friends and wake up at 7, and it was just becoming so draining. Even when I would get sick, I'd be like, I'm gonna like go out, and my doctor would say, no, you're on bed rest. I'm like, no, I'm not. This is not a thing. And so now I'm big on just having my peace. I want to have friends. I don't like being super lonely. But I also like sitting at my house for hours and doing a puzzle and having no one bother me and turn my phone off and walking on the beach and finding shark teeth and shells and
yes,
you know.
Oh man, let me know if you ever want a buddy for that.
I literally went out last night
That's
and
our
found
thing.
4 shark teeth and I was like, score.
How many?
4.
Shut the
It wasn't
fuck
that- it
up.
wasn't
I
that
gotta
good,
tell
though.
Bella.
It wasn't
a
that
lot.
good.
What? You found
Wasn't-
4?
Yeah, and I
Where do you? What beach?
So I live on the beach. I do live in Boynton, and Florida is actually like one of the number 1 places for shark teeth hunting and fossil hunting. So yeah.
No, my friends and I also shark tooth hunt. Well, I don't get to the beach very often because I have kids, and but they bring me like socks full of shells, and then I have little buckets at my house, and I dig through
I'm
them at
pretty
my
sure I
house.
have
I
a
bring the
cup.
beach to me.
Yeah,
You
I
bring
do
it
the
to
same
you.
thing. I have a cup in my car right now. I think it has at least 20 shark teeth in it that
I have
just,
not
keep
found
forgetting
a
to
shark
take
tooth
out.
yet, but they've all found like, I don't know, in the dozens.
Do they go to Juneau?
No, they live in Deerfield, so they they live
okay.
right by Deerfield Beach,
Yeah.
and so they go all the time at night, like when
Mhm.
it's low tide or whatever. And
Yeah.
they have like the prime time, and I'm like, it is way too late for. There's no way I'm going to the beach. That
Night
late.
hunting's my
Yeah.
favorite with my big headlamp, and I can't do it right now because the sea turtle season just started. But
Yeah.
like last night, low tide was right around sunset, so I ran out there.
Oh, I love it.
Like, low tide.
I did want to. I loved that. I actually have a affirmation sticky on my mirror that says "Protect your peace" because I too suffer from the people pleasing and almost like busybody. I call her like busybody Kayla, where it's just like I have to be doing things, whether it's the healing things or the like. What I have to meditate, I have to be in my Bible, I have to journal, and then the healing isn't about healing anymore. It's just about me doing things, and I'm not actually listening to my soul. I'm like just checking a box. And so yeah, practicing that pause and listening to like, what do I actually want right now? What do I need? What will make my life more wonderful right now is so crucial and so important. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Thank you.
How did you get to that place? That place of peace and serenity.
I feel like I'm not totally there 100%, especially pretty much like the past 6 months of my life has been like some of the worst moments of my entire life.
Wow.
Yeah, so I've been focusing on it extra hard lately. But before the worst moments of my entire life, I did find that peace because I had kind of built like this solid foundation. I was really happy in my work life. I was kind of like gathering everything that I've wanted, and none of it's anything that I thought I wanted when I was first, getting my life together. It's weird how it all looks different. But I just really like focused on listening to my body and my mind. I have really bad anxiety, and nobody ever thinks that. They're like, oh, you're so chill and, down to earth, and you're just like one with nature.
Yeah.
And like, I swear you could smoke weed or something. And that's not me. My head is like I have like 20 different conversations going on in my head at all times. I'm like, why is that picture hanging in a weird place? Like, where did my passport go? Like, did I drop ketchup in my car earlier? And those are all going on like all
My
at the
to-do
same
list.
time.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God, did my client earlier like what I said, or did they not like that? Or did I get back to this person? And I have such bad anxiety, and it was getting to the point where I was just, I would be going to bed at night, and I would call it my panic hour. Like, like a panic hour before I would fall asleep, and my heart would be racing, and like, I have a heart condition, so I don't want to panic.
Yeah.
Like, keep the heart healthy. And I said to myself, there's too much. There's too much going on. There's too much drama. There's too much panic. Like, I cannot have this. I just need to check out and kind of like just flow.
Yeah.
And I did that.
Yeah. I call that weeding my garden. Plucking
I love
out
that.
the things that no longer serve me. Because it's important. Like trimming the fat,
Yeah.
Sometimes shit's got to go.
And it's like, I didn't even have to pluck the garden. It was like God just removed all of these things, and I didn't go chasing them. I wasn't like, hey, where'd you go? What happened? Like,
you allowed God to work in your
I'm
life.
like, okay.
Yeah.
Like,
I
go.
love that.
Like, disappear.
Surrender.
That's awesome.
Fuck, what were we just talking about before? You were talking about
The chaos hour before you go to
the
sleep.
panic hour.
The panic
yeah.
hour.
I call that like I have too many tabs open in my brain.
Love that.
I have like because I have racing thoughts and like
Yeah.
I gotta do this, I gotta do that, I gotta do that, and I have like the racing thoughts, too many tabs open, like hard to shut it down, hard to turn it off, hard to check in, like hard to get present and stay present.
Mm-hmm.
I have found though, when I do get to that panic place, like kind of just letting it happen and like accepting it, like, okay, I'm going to panic right now. And like, just kind of like saying like, all right, my little panic buddy, like you can stay. Are you, do you need anything? Like checking in with my, like, eventually it passes. It's when I try to do things to stop the panic that make it worse. Like sometimes it just needs to, we got to feel the feelings, right?
Yeah.
In order to heal them.
I absolutely agree. I just remind myself, I'm like, okay, well, it's after 5 p.m. I can't do any of these things.
Mm-hmm.
Like nobody's answering the phone. The offices aren't open.
Mm-hmm.
I can't schedule that doctor's appointment.
Yep.
Mhm.
You're powerless over it.
Yeah, I'm literally
Yes.
powerless over the
moment.
situation. The best thing I can do is just try to be better tomorrow and work on those things. And if that happens, great. And if that doesn't happen, I'll just do it the next day.
Does
Yeah.
making a list help you? Making a list has helped me, and staying organized. Has that helped you at all?
Yes, I love lists. I'm
Yep.
big on calendar updates. Like, I think if I went in my calendar right now, it would say, do your LLC.
Oh.
Or yesterday would have been,
Oh.
last day, do LLC,
Yeah.
because you had to do it by May 1st. But I had completed it 2 weeks
There's
ago.
like literally like
Yeah.
700 things.
That's what
today.
my calendar looks
Every
like.
single minute is like.
And I have such bad ADHD and like auditory processing. So when people tell me things, it'll go in one ear, out the other. And
Gotta write it down.
I have to write it down immediately. And my notes app, insane.
Me too.
Immediately write it down, add it to my calendar. When someone's making an appointment, I'm like, give me the address. They're like, oh, let me text it to you. I'm like, no, give it to me now. Read it to
Yep.
me.
Yep.
Mhm.
I'm putting it in.
I have a
Yeah.
whole process. I have a calendar on the wall for me and the kids in the laundry room. I have my planner, that's a calendar, and I have this calendar, and I write it on all three
Mm-hmm.
so that it gets integrated into my brain.
Yeah.
So I'm like, not forget. Yeah.
I
That's
get
funny.
that.
So, how did you find your way into sobriety? Let's back
Yeah,
up a
I
little
wanna
bit.
talk-
I'd love to hear more about how you got introduced to alcohol, family dynamic. We're very big here on family dynamic, early childhood. Tell us, how many siblings did you
Where do you
have?
come from?
Yeah, yeah. Where
What
you from?
happened to you?
Yeah, give us it from the beginning.
Okay, so from the beginning, off the rip, born and raised, Delray Beach, Boca Raton.
God bless you.
Yeah. It was really
What's
different
wrong with
back
Delray
then.
and Boca?
Okay, but here's the thing is 20 plus years ago is that it was just like a small fisher, surfer, little town of redneck Floridians, and 95 was 2 lanes. Anything west of, honestly, 95 was all cow fields. Like, do you know on,
Oh, I would love that.
do you know Gateway and Boynton?
Mhm.
And
Yes.
like where Quantum Lakes and all that whole area is, I mean, not even 8-9 years ago, I could still go over there and it would be cows.
Mm,
Wow.
Quantum Lakes used to be just big cow field.
Wow.
Yeah, like
that's cool.
That's wild.
so it was.
No, there's like over
That was
100,000 people moving to Florida every day or some
Yeah.
shit.
or
Oh,
I
you
think on at a weekly or something like
Fucking
that.
New Yorkers.
And I lived back in the day. I lived in the Everglades. So my mom,
Oh wow.
I didn't, but like that's what everyone said it was. So where I was raised was right on Military,
Mhm.
like in between Linton and Clintmore. So it was technically unauthorized. It wasn't even Delray or Boca. It was just like Palm Beach County.
Yeah.
And I would tell people
Off
like,
grid.
oh, my house is, right here. And they're like, oh, you're in the Everglades? And I'm like, well, it's not that bad of a drive. But now when you think of Military, that's central.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
It's
some
happening.
people like still think it's east. I don't think it's east, but I mean it was the Everglades.
Yeah.
There was nothing other than farms and cow fields and alligators.
Mm.
And everyone drove trucks. Everyone knew everyone. Like there was no secrets. It's still kind of like that with the local population who grew up here. But it was interesting. Everything on Atlantic Ave would shut down at 6 p.m. It was only local businesses were allowed on the Ave. They weren't allowed to have any chains or anything. It was all locals on the Ave. Everything shut down at 6.
That sounds awesome.
I remember when I was 10 years old, I would take my friend's golf cart and we'd drive it down the Ave to the beach.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it started getting a little more populated, or like if it was snowbird season, the cops would be like, hey, you guys can't do this during these months. Like, you cannot be driving a golf cart down Atlantic Ave during the tourist months. And we'd be like, oh, but why? Like, we're just trying to go surfing. What do you mean? I'd ride the Palm Tran from the ages of like 11 to 15 with my surfboard.
That's awesome.
Trying to get to the beach. So it was very different back then. We didn't really worry about anything other than like the Boca Raton serial killer.
There's a Boca Raton serial killer?
Yeah, there was like a guy who was attacking people at the Boca Mall when I was in middle school, and so we all had to, it was like a whole thing. They still never caught the guy to this day.
What?
Yeah, it was during the holidays, like right before Christmas. He would hide under people's cars and then like
what the fuck?
Kill them in their cars.
Oh my.
Like moms and daughters, like did not matter. And I can't remember what they called him, but he had a name. To this day, nobody's ever caught him. There's just like this weird picture of him that's a sketch, and you would have to be escorted to and from the mall. But that was really the only thing you worried about was hurricanes, this weird serial killer during like 2 years in Boca, and that was about it.
What about your family? What was your family life like?
So my family was, I would say I was average. I wasn't super wealthy rich. It wasn't like I was living on the intercoastal or had an elevator in my house. My parents divorced at a very young age. They absolutely did not like each other. They are both alive, so they will probably hear this podcast, so I will withdraw from certain things. But yeah, they did not get along. So that was rough. It was like a very...
How old were you?
I was about 5 or 6. And it's weird because I have absolutely no recollection of my childhood. And my therapist is always like, that says something. And I'm like, I don't want to know. Ignorance is bliss. Like, don't tell me. But I have a younger brother. He is 2.5 years younger than me. I was very athletic kid. I did every sport under the sun and, you know, got into the travel sports of all of those. And my brother was very kind of video games, TV, like built his own computers. So we were complete opposites. I was like a dad's girl. I wanted to build cars and trucks and do crazy things. And my brother was more kind of stuck by my mom. But they did divorce at a young age. And
did they both stay in your life?
Yeah, they did. For early on, later on, me and my dad didn't talk for a really long time. My dad is sober. He just picked up 36 years of sobriety, literally, like on Thursday.
That's
so
awesome.
Last Thursday he did.
That's so impressive.
Yeah, so I grew up in the rooms of AA. So
Really?
Well, I did grow up in the rooms, and the owner of Crossroads was my dad's sponsor. So I've known, you know, Tony Allerton for a really long time, and I grew up at the bottom line, like the OG bottom line down.
I've been to the bottom line,
like the OG one, and it was when you'd still smoke inside, and all of the guys like rode Harleys, and they were all like, you know, it was wild. And I'd always try to like play on the bikes outside, and they had this little. There's another meeting place where they like when they do the money, and they put it in that roundy lockbox thing. I would spend the entire meeting trying to break into that thing to steal the money, and all of them would say the apple does not fall far from the tree. She's gonna end up in these rooms one day. Oh, I sure did. But I grew up in the rooms of AA, but nobody ever sat me down and said, hey, this is what this is. This is why I don't drink. He never had that I remember. He never had that conversation with me. I just knew that I had to be quiet for about an hour every day, and you know, just not.
Do you remember the meetings? Like, do you remember hearing people share, or like?
I don't remember shares, but if I close my eyes, I can visualize every single part of that room, that meeting, like the smell of the coffee, how the chairs felt, how the really ruggedy, like, you know, just paper carpet felt near the podium, how flimsy the podium was. So I remember certain things. And I didn't realize that I had remembered all of that until later on. But yeah, I remember things, but I don't remember shares or being, reading the signs of the meeting and knowing what they were talking about.
Yeah. It was just a thing your dad did.
Yeah, my dad chaired the meeting, and I was like, he's the boss.
Yeah, yeah.
But there was no boss.
He's
Right.
the president
Yeah.
of the room.
I didn't know what I thought it was. I just knew that I had to be quiet, and there was a bunch of scary biker men in the meeting all the
so
time.
Funny.
So,
Oh no, just a question about the divorce. We have had some guests on here that talked about their parents getting a divorce, and they didn't experience or see them fighting, but more so the energy that was in the household right before the divorce and how it impacted them. What was it like in the household before they got divorced, and did you feel it? Or do you even remember it? Because you said you were about 5, right?
I don't remember it at all. I just know that it must have been very stressful for me. I was in the 1st grade at that time. I went to this Christian school that was in everyone's stuff, and I know the divorce was very messy and pretty out there. So my school ended up they literally held me back from the 1st grade because they thought I wasn't going to be emotionally mature enough to move on to the next grade I started acting out, throwing books at people's heads. I had really bad anger issues. I was an angry kid, and I would get blackout anger and just I would try to fight everyone. And I remember bits and pieces where my parents would be arguing and they'd see me and they'd slam the door shut, and I'd remember that stuff. And then after the divorce, they wouldn't be able to drop me off at each other's houses. They had to meet in a public setting, in a park or at a parking lot. It had to be a public setting because I think that there was just so much animosity. And my dad, during the divorce, from what I know, is that there was just a lot of allegations of money and assets. And so I was under the impression every single time I would go to see my mom that it was my last time seeing her because I thought she was going to jail. And she wasn't, but
you're 5. You didn't fucking know that.
Yeah, so if someone's telling me, hey, and I really think the other person did truly think that, this person's going to go to jail and blah, 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 blah. And there was just a lot there. So I think there's just a lot of trauma from that divorce and being held back and then, getting bullied because I got held back. And my entire childhood was just very chaotic.
Yeah.
But I grew up, middle class. I got everything I needed. I ended up loving the divorce later on because I got 2 Christmases and 2 birthdays and they were always trying to updo each other and be well, what did they get you? Oh, I'm gonna do this. So it was cool. And my dad was really cool. I, was a dad's girl. He is in the program, and so we are fallible and we fall short, and he also struggled with anger issues like me, so the apple also doesn't fall far from the tree there. And so it was just it was hard sometimes when he would get frustrated. I'd get frustrated. I didn't know what to do. And that ended up becoming a trend. But he would take me to do really cool things. He would take me out of school where my mom would drop me off at Carline, and he'd secretly come pick me up on the Harley, and we'd go down to the Keys for the day to go fishing and then come back. And he'd drop me off right before Carline started. My mom would say, "How was your day at school?" And I'm like, "Oh, it was great." It was great. She'd get a call a week later, "Hey, your daughter missed 2 days of school last week."
Yeah.
But I started stealing and doing really small, sketchy things during that time. So I remember bits and pieces, or if I'm in therapy and my therapist, will kind of question things, I'll be like, oh. And that. So I had a lot of nannies growing up. Was pretty much raised by nannies. So I also feel like my parents weren't around that much, and it wasn't their fault. My mom, started her business with $500, worked her butt off to get where she is now. And then my dad, just the courts only really allowed me to see him once or twice a week. So it is what it is. I think divorces are just messy and they're traumatic for children no matter what. Whether they're the most, wonderful, amazing co-parents of all time.
Sorry. You can pull it out to you and like down a little bit and like turn it. There you go.
Really?
And like
maneuver.
Oh, perfect. There you go.
Ooh, it maneuvers a lot.
Yep.
I like that. Okay.
No, he always is like.
Yeah, no, I
I'm
realized
so
I was like
annoying.
I do.
No,
I
you're
realized
great.
I was leaning. I was like getting more comfortable and I'm like, I don't care if my back's arched or
Move
not.
closer, Harry.
No, it's interesting that you say that though, because we've talked to a lot of people who have overcome adversity, and divorce is very prevalent in our society. And I find it fascinating that for a child, like, your caretakers are your first introduction to a higher power. And the family unit, especially when you're young, like super young, is the family unit. As a child, you can't identify like, oh, this is my mom. This is like, even if you say it, your brain is like, this is my tribe. These are my people. Yeah. And so when that splits, no matter what, even if it's a great divorce and, they're super co-parents and they talk highly about each other, like, no matter what, that family unit has divided. And in the child's mind, like, when something like that happens, it's not that there's something wrong with the parents. They internalize that and say there's something wrong with me. Mm-hmm. And then comes the throwing books, and then comes the, what is this, alcohol? I don't feel so much anger anymore. I don't feel so much, like, I numb. This is great. I like this. I need more of this. And so it's good for listeners to know that, like, this is a very, like, it happens a lot.
Yeah. Later on, at first I was upset. I was confused. I was angry. I used to like sabotage every date my mom would try to go on afterwards, like literally sabotage it. This one guy bought me like flight classes to learn how to fly at Boca Aviation. And I was like, you won me over. Everyone else can go
fly
a
kite.
Fuck off. But that guy won me over.
Yeah, I'd say.
But yeah, I'm grateful my parents got divorced. Like, they were definitely not meant for each other after, me and my brother were born. I'm happy that they met. I'm happy that we have the life that we have. But yeah, they're both much happier now on their own. And I it's funny because, like, when a divorce happens, they both just really have so much emotional baggage afterwards. And I would always, at a young, because you had talked about religion, like being introduced to a higher power God, and I would be walking by my dad's room and he'd be like on his knees praying, and I never understood like why he would. I'm like, we've never gone to church, we like don't really do any of this, like why is he on his knees praying? What is he praying about? What is he praying to? I never knew. But then when I ended up in the rooms later, it clicked.
Yeah,
I'm like,
I get it.
Yeah. Isn't that so funny too, that like, and that's something as a parent I try to be super aware of, like, why do I do the things I do, and like talking to my kids about it, like, hey, why do we say grace every night? Like, well, we talk to, we thank God for like all that we have, like, it's important, because I think you're right. Like, if you don't explain it to a kid, they're just gonna be like, all right, well, and then they go do their thing,
Well, the funniest thing is like, I mean, my dad was raised Catholic, but I don't even think he was that religious. Like,
yeah,
it was just like him,
faithful, spiritual.
Yeah, being very spiritual and spiritual and praying to his higher power.
Yeah,
but his God, and I do think he believes in the Catholic faith, but it wasn't explained to me. I didn't really truly understand it. Maybe it was I challenged the pastor at like the Christian school I would go to. They really did not like me there. I ended up getting kicked out, but they asked me to leave. That's a whole other story. But yeah, I had a good childhood. Like, I didn't, I can't say that I remember anything that was horrific. The divorce, yeah, that sucked. Getting held back sucked. But all of those things, I'm so grateful that they happened, because I wouldn't be the person I am today. In those moments, I was like, I don't want to live. I hate this. I'm already in a lot of physical pain. Like, the world sucks. Why am I here? Why did you guys birth me? But now I'm so grateful for all those things. I'm so happy that they all happened, because I wouldn't have gotten to the place that I am at now, and I wouldn't have gotten sober as early and figured out as many things as I did if it wasn't for each of those experiences.
Yeah.
What were your teenage years like? Because you got sober at 19, so
Yeah.
the madness begins.
The madness begins. It began very shortly after that. So pretty much, because my parents were divorced, my parents would also not agree on anything. Like, if one parent was like, yeah, this is a great idea, the other parent had to automatically be like, no, this is not a good idea.
Yeah.
So one day my mom had made a joke saying, well, the only way you're going to leave your school is if you get kicked out. She did not really think that one through, because I took that very seriously, and I said, okay, well, I'm going to get myself kicked out. So I think the Twilight books had just came out at that time. So I started reading like all the Twilight books, and they were like, you're practicing like satanic work or whatever. You can't read those books here. And I was a really advanced reader, and so I was just like, oh my God, this is the key. Like, I just need to say that I worship the devil, and they're going to get me right on out of here. And so I pretty much told all of the students that I worship the devil. I got back to their parents, and
Oh my God.
Wow.
and I was politely asked
Wow.
to leave. I was brought to a big round table with the principal, vice principal, and a lot of people, and my mom. And they looked at me and they're like, are you willing to accept God back into your life and denounce the satanic work that you've blah, blah, blah. And
How old were you?
I was probably, I want to say I was 12 or 13.
Oh my gosh.
And
It's it's funny, but it's like, dude, how could they not see that as a cry for help? You know, like a
It's so true.
12-year-old, like, oh my gosh.
the kids were so mean to me. I mean, a lot of them I'm cool with now, but they were so mean to me. And I just wanted to get out of there. And my mom gave me like the death stare of, you
Just
better
say
say
yes.
yes.
Yeah.
And I looked straight at them, dead in the eyes, and I said no. They wouldn't even let me go pack my locker. They were like, right to the parking lot, we'll send your stuff to you.
Later.
And I went to public school right after that, and my dad had lived so he lived in Pompano, not in the greatest area. And so I had already dabbled with cigarettes and alcohol here and there, trying to fit in with the kids in that neighborhood. And a lot of them were in, gang affiliated groups and whatnot. So they already weren't doing the best things. So I got roped into that. And then it was weird. I feel like a lot of people who grew up in Delray Boca are very just closed off to really everything. They just like only see the world one way. I got to see like very two different aspects of the world. And I'm very grateful for that, because I learned very quickly like street smarts, and then I would go back to Boca and be like, these freaking people are so stupid. Like, they don't know anything. And then I'd go to my dad's and I'd be like, survival.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just like very different. And so me and my dad we stopped talking for really like 10 or 12 years.
Wow.
We didn't talk again until I was about 3 years sober. So it was just me at my mom's, and she was always working. So I started getting away with a lot of stuff. I had been bullied. I went to that new school, and immediately, before that, I did a lot of sports. I did soccer. I think I was one of the first female hockey players, definitely in Palm Beach County, maybe in the state of Florida. I read the whole rule book, and it said nothing about a girl not being able to play hockey. So I joined the hockey team.
That's awesome.
And I did good. I did like hat tricks some games. I lost my 2 front teeth during hockey and was in the newspaper for that. I would like slam guys against walls.
I love it.
Were you forward, winger?
I was left wing, and then I ended up being captain later on.
Nice.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
That's awesome.
So I did that. So I was big sports. If there was a sport, I did it. And I started doing all-star cheerleading, because that's what all the popular girls did. And all-star and school are very different, if you don't know.
Very much
They
so
are very different. Like, cheerleading is, in fact, a sport for anyone out there who does not believe it is.
Ultra
And
competitive all-star, right?
Yeah, competitive all-star.
Yep.
Went to Worlds, ESPN, the
Yep.
whole nine. So I did that, and there was a lot of, I struggled there, but I ended up becoming friends with this girl, and she actually just died recently, which is really sad.
Sorry to hear that.
But she was like one of my best friends. She was my best friend. And she introduced me to alcohol and weed and all these people, and I just slowly got into that. And, you know, that's when I became the bully, the person who fought people, all of those things. And I slowly just like crept down this terrible, terrible path. And I ended up getting kicked out of middle school. I couldn't tell you how I made it to high school. I was in handcuffs almost every weekend. Thankfully, I never got like fully arrested. My mom really bailed me out on a lot of them because the cops knew my mom and all of this stuff. And I remember it was during FCAT. It's pretty much like or not. It's like SATs in middle school is the FCAT, and it's just like the state testing. And I remember everyone's like locked in their classrooms. We're all doing the FCAT, and I see like 3 Boca Raton cops go into my locker, and I was like, oh, fuck. And they pull me out of the FCAT. They like have a bunch of weed in my locker. I did get kicked out of school. I wasn't allowed to complete the FCAT. I had to like do it during the summertime. And I used to get McDonald's every single day. I would get those big McDonald's sweet teas before school. And I would end up pouring like rum into it. So I had that in my locker too. And I was just, I want to say by 8th grade, I was drinking every single day. I was showing up to school drunk. I was smoking weed. And I was just going downhill. And I remember the first time where I truly, truly got blacked out drunk. I loved it. I remember like the first time I drank, I felt nothing. Like, and it wasn't, I was always a social butterfly. I could always make friends. You could put me in any setting and I'd be fine. But it was just the physical pain. Like every inch of my physical pain got taken away, and I felt like Superman. I thought to myself, I could do anything, and I can't get injured. I can't get hurt. I can't get sick. Like, I am invincible. And I rolled with that for as long as I could. I almost died a few times. I got in a horrific crash where I don't like tell a lot of people. I'm more open about it now because I think people are more open about hearing it now. But I had an out-of-body experience. It was like summer in between middle school and high school, and the car had rolled. I was in the front seat. I didn't have a seatbelt on. And I was like the only one who ended up getting injured. But to this day, I can tell you every single thing that happened in that crash. But it was almost like from a drone perspective. Like, it was almost like I was like a drone above the crash. And it was weird. I was like watching my best friend like shake me, screaming, wake up. And then I was seeing her hit this other kid being like, you killed Kat, blah, blah, blah. I could literally tell you everything that happened until the moment I like got up and I was like, where am I? And it was so weird. To this day, I cannot explain it. But that was one of those moments where I said to myself, I'm never going to drink and drive. I'm not doing this anymore. I can't do this. Next day, doing it all over again. And then, you know, it just kept going downhill. I started working as a shot girl at clubs in Miami at the age of like 15.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
So I will retract bar names from this story, but there was a popular sports bar, a few of them, like locally, that I would go to. And then and back then you could serve as an 18-year-old. I still think you can in Florida. You can serve alcohol 18 and up. So like these owners would hire me under the table. They would just be like, tell people you're 18. Don't say anything more. Like, I obviously wasn't 21, but I could have passed as 18. And then I started going to Miami, and I would just go to like Club Space, Exit, like all of these clubs every single weekend. And I was 15, 16 years old.
Wow.
You know, and I look back at that now, and I was like hooking up with guys and doing all of this stuff. And I'm like, I can't believe I did half the things I did. I lived a very, very adult life at a very early age.
Yeah.
And I got away with a lot of stuff. And then I ended up meeting this guy, and everyone was like, don't do it. He's bad news. And I'm like, and that went downhill.
Just check it out.
We know. I know. We all know that story.
Yeah, it went downhill.
The bad boys.
Fast. The bad boy, I was right on it. And, you know, he ended up getting very abusive, and I was stuck in that. I was just stuck in this very abusive relationship. I would end up in the hospital. I would, you know, I had like permanent brain damage to where I still have a ringing in my ear at all times because he would like hit me so hard. And I got in a really dark place during that time. I remember like it got to this point where at first he would hit me and I'd be like, what do I do? Like, this hurts. Like, I don't know what to do. I'd panic. And then it got to this point where like he would just wail on me and I'd be like, I can't wait for a drink. I just want to drink. That's all I want. And it just got really, really dark. And one of my friends, the girl that I'd become friends with in cheerleading, she caught on to it and she tried to do an intervention. And, you know, we were 16 years old. They didn't know any better. They don't know how to like pull interventions. They don't know the mental health behind it. And she had said something to him like, I know that you're hitting her and doing this. And so he thought that I had told them, and it just made it even worse.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was just like a very dark time, and it was hard because I think when you're in this abusive relationship, from a girl's perspective, and men, you know, both equally, I think men actually end up in more abusive relationships than girls. There's a stigma. But you are like truly are convinced that it's a form of love. Yeah. If they don't
Trauma
hit
bond,
me,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like they're telling me that I only have to do this because I love you so much, and I need to show you how much I love you. And so you get stuck in it and you get convinced that the only form of love is this abuse and this narcissism. And it took a really long time for me to get out of it. So long that my mom had to, unfortunately, send me off to Utah because she just didn't know what else to do. The cops were like, you just need to get her out of the state. She's going to end up dead.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to end up finding her dead. And so she did what she thought was best, and she sent me to...
Wow, that's so crazy.
To the program that just released on Netflix.
Wow.
The Adolescent.
We have very
Center.
similar stories. Like, so I was sexually abused as a child. And when I was 16, I had finally said what was happening. But it's the same thing. When you learn, when that's your first introduction to love, you begin to believe that, like, that's just all you know. And I can only imagine being 16, feeling so alone, right? Like, obviously you're feeling so alone. You're drinking, you're like doing all of these things, and you have this person who keeps saying they love you and then doing these very not loving things.
Yeah.
So you just say like, this is love, this is love, this is love. And it's funny because my mom did the exact same thing. She shipped me off to Boston. Like, I didn't go to a rehab, but I moved, 800 miles away from my family and lived by myself. And like, I can look back and be so grateful for that, because
I'm so grateful now.
If she hadn't done that, I would be dead for sure. But it's interesting that, like, so you said you're in a relationship now.
I am.
It's a healthy, loving relationship.
Yeah.
How many bad relationships did you have in between the
So
abusive
many.
relationship? Yeah, me too.
So many bad ones.
Do you need water?
No, I'm good. I just
We have water
like,
out there if you
bad
want to get it.
asthma.
Okay.
No, my Celsius is good enough. I'm like drowning in mucus constantly. But yeah, it's weird. I wouldn't even say I had bad relationships. I wouldn't allow myself to be in a relationship. I ended up becoming like the fuck boy. Like, I didn't
Protective mechanism.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I hope the best for the person that I was in the abusive relationship with. I truly do hope him the best. I hope that he treats everyone else differently one day. But, I'm grateful for that at a young age. I didn't truly understand it. It took a long time for me to figure out love, and he had taken everyone and everything away from me, convinced me that all of my
Totally
friends were,
isolated.
like I true, the exact signs of what to look for in an abusive
Right.
relationship.
Isn't it crazy that they all are the same?
It's the exact
like
same.
every time you talk to someone,
Mm-hmm.
you're like, oh my God. Like even to the point where it's like they say the same things.
Exactly.
Like,
To the
and
T.
you're like, wait, what? I'm not special?
Yeah, and that's why I'm grateful for that relationship at 16 years old, because I learned quickly what an abusive relationship looked like. And as
So you
abusive,
swung the opposite way. You were like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to be in any kind of relationship now.
Protecting
was
yourself.
terrified of commitment. I could
Yeah.
not commit to anyone. I wanted to have like a fuck buddy, and that
Mhm.
was it. And I didn't want them to take me out on dates. I didn't want anything to do with them.
No emotion.
No
Yeah.
emotion, like no connection, very surface level. And I've been like that for a long time, even with, I always say, to my therapist, I'm like, even the people closest to me, like my closest people still don't know anything about me.
Yeah.
And that's scary. Like to this day, still sometimes the closest people to me, I feel like know nothing about me.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry to my friends out there.
Well,
Like,
when you're
that's
ready.
a scary thing. Yeah.
When you're ready,
But
you know?
it's like I just have these trust issues. I'm convinced that it's like I had so much death at a young age. I had almost my entire friend group died in motorcycle accidents at a young
Oh my
age.
God.
Not even overdoses. I didn't lose. There was like one friend in our friend group that died of an accidental overdose, but it was all motorcycles and car crashes down here.
Wow.
I would say there's about, out of 20 of us, I think as of now, there's only 3 of us alive.
Holy shit.
Yeah. And so yeah, I had so much death, so I had already been convinced that everybody was going to die and leave, that no one was going to stick around, and that nobody truly loved you.
Mm-hmm.
And so my just view on commitment was very flawed. I ended up, after I got sober, I got into a more serious relationship. And then, I would do this thing where I'd stay in a serious relationship for a couple of years, and I've never passed that 3-year mark.
Yeah.
Second it got to 3 years, I'm like, bye.
Find a reason.
Like, you talk about marriage, you talk about kids, bye.
Yeah.
I'm out.
Yeah.
Mhm. So when you were 19, is when your mom sent you to Utah?
No, so I got sent to Utah as an adolescent. Do you know that new Netflix series that came out called The Program?
I don't watch a ton of TV.
It's like this huge thing. So Paris Hilton, actually, she started getting a lot of these adolescent treatment centers shut down. So they are heavily abusive.
Oh.
They're very like child neglect, abuse. And it's hard because you're a juvenile teenager,
Yeah, you
and
have
you're
no
already
voice.
manipulative, and then you go to this place and any like the worst things you can think of they did. And you would call your parents and you'd be like, this is happening, like you have to get me out of here, like please get me out of here. And then the therapist would be like, hey, like none of this is true, your daughter's trying to manipulate you, like don't give into it.
Oh my God.
And it was horrible, and they would hold people for a year and say,
God.
you don't have any privileges, you don't get this, you don't get that. You were only allowed to have certain products in the shower. If you broke a rule, they would take away your shampoo or conditioner or face wash, or there was just like just the craziest things. And there would be like this stuff called refocus and things like that. And it was a very, very dark time in my life. I'm grateful for it because they did introduce me to the rooms, but it was really hard to be there. And I lived with the family that I was placed with, the Mormon family that I was placed with. The wife was also very abusive, and they actually just were part of like a really big lawsuit with a lot of other patients that had gone through there.
Wow.
So that was interesting because like that family specifically was named, and I remember always saying, I want to be with this other family. Like I kept trying to get switched to another household. But yeah, I went there, and I'm grateful because it got me out of this abusive relationship. It kind of got me away from the chaos of South Florida and like the club scene in Miami and the alcohol and all of it, but
and it's another traumatizing
but
experience.
then it was like a whole other traumatizing experience that it was just every single thing that I kept stepping into, you know, to the point where it was brainwashing. Like I would snap to agree at things for 5+ years after that. Sometimes I still catch myself doing things where it's just like ingrained in my head. And I came back and then
How long were you there for?
was there for 14 months.
Okay, so a little over a year.
And
how did you get out of there?
So I just got lucky. My mom just really wanted me to come back to Florida.
Wow.
And they just kept saying, no, she's not ready. She's not ready.
And then they just
They kept trying to hold
AMA'd
me.
you.
And my mom was like, I'm pulling her out. She's coming home.
Holy shit. So you're like, wow.
I got really lucky. I should have been there for 2+ years. If they could have held me for up to 4 years, they would have. I mean, you really didn't even get good privileges until 9-10 months in. And I was so grateful when my mom pulled me out, and it was right before her birthday. It was Super Bowl Sunday. I don't know why they flew me home on Super Bowl weekend, but I immediately, like, the first thing I did, I was like, well, I don't really have an issue. I'm just going to drink. And I blackout drunk that night to the point where I'm pretty sure, like, to this day, I'm convinced I got roofied. And I just went to the races from there. And that was going on for probably, I would say, I came back by the time I was, like, almost 18. And I got sober at 19. So I was kind of drinking heavily for about almost a year, and then I had, you know, I lost like some really close people to me. My little brother's best friend, he died right before his 15th birthday. He got like murdered under the Deerfield Pier by some other middle schoolers. They got in a fist fight and some kid knocked him out, and he died of a head contusion, and they left him for dead because they got scared. So that was like super sad, and he was like he was also a little brother to me essentially. And then I lost my best friend right after that. He was in a high-speed chase on his motorcycle, and I watched it happen in front of me. So I lost him, and then I lost another person like 28 days later. And I just had hit this point where I'm like, everyone's dying. Why am I not dying? Like, I should be the one that's dead. I'm the shitty person. I'm the one who's the alcoholic. I can't stop doing this. And I just wanted to kill myself. I literally just wanted to die. And I just didn't have the guts to kill myself. That was really the only thing stopping me. So I just kind of hinted to my mom that I needed help, but I wasn't going to actually do it. And I was out on the boat. I got pulled over by FWC. Thankfully, they didn't arrest me. They towed me back. I had my friend come pick me up. I went to Tijuana Flats, never been there again. I was like drunk, and some guy in a suit comes and sits next to me, and he was like, "Are you Kat?" I said, "Yeah, that's a really nice suit. Like, who are you?" He was like wearing some like nice Gucci suit. And he said, you know, I'm going to take you to go get help. I didn't ask where I was going. I didn't even ask if I was going to Utah. I didn't ask any questions. I was just like, can I go home? Can I get cigarettes? Can I pack? And he said, yeah. I said, okay. I didn't fight. I got right in this guy's car. And
did he identify himself?
No, honestly, not really.
It was just like a higher power moment where
a
man just came in
and
a
nobody's
Gucci
ever
suit.
asked me that question. No, he
It's a
didn't.
good question.
Yeah, I probably could have gotten in the car with the serial killer.
Wow.
Let's go.
But I just trusted. I just like knew like something.
Yeah.
There was just something that
God.
I knew to get
100%.
in. And I ended up, you know, at a treatment center right on FAU campus. I was right down the street from my house. I ended up getting sober in my own backyard. And it was truly one of the best things that I had ever done, because I knew deep down in my soul I was ready. I was done.
Rock bottom.
Like it, and my rock bottom didn't look scary. Like it wasn't
Whoa,
that bad.
honey,
It looked.
I don't know if you've been listening to you
It sounded
talk.
scary.
What are you talking? It's like, it wasn't scary. I'm like, oh,
It wasn't
But it
that
wasn't-
bad.
You literally just lived with like, I don't know, like abusive family in Utah for 14 months. And you're like, yeah, I'm really grateful for it. And I'm like, what the?
I'm just grateful for everything. I'm like, God's got my back.
No, God does have your back,
Yeah.
but it was really scary.
Yeah.
It's okay to admit that. It was really fucking scary.
I still think there's a part of me where it's, I didn't end up homeless. I wasn't doing this, this, and this.
Yeah,
so
I get it.
I'm
Yeah,
like,
of
oh, it
course.
wasn't that bad. But it just emotionally, I was done. I was done with everything. I wanted to die. Like, at the end of the day, no matter what we have, what we lose, what we did or didn't do, we all end up with the same feelings every single time. All of us always end up in this place of, I want to kill myself. I want to die. I hate everything. Why is this happening to everyone else and not happening to me? Why am I not the one who's dead? And that's just like, that's so important to remember, is that, we all have special individual stories, but at the end of the day, the feelings are the exact same.
Yep.
And I just went to treatment. I did the thing, and even though I lived down the street, I still went to halfway. I did that. I did not want to do that, but I did it because I knew it was the right thing. And I got a sponsor, and I did all of these things. And I kind of started doing, steps. And then I fell off when I got into halfways and made friends. And I was like a young 19-year-old in the rooms. And I was probably like the youngest person in the rooms at that time.
I bet.
All of my friends were 10 years older than me.
Bet.
Now it's, you have like 15, 16-year-olds.
Crazy
I
now.
love it. It's amazing.
Never had a legal drink,
Yeah, I love it. I'm right there with them. I get it. And I tell them, I'm like, you can do this. Like, please do this now. Do it. And and then I had that little 4-day bender, and nothing bad happened either. I hit this place where I knew that if I didn't stop drinking right then and there, I knew exactly what was going to happen. And I had told myself that if I left, like if I had gotten kicked out of my halfway house and somebody was going to try to put me back into treatment, that I told myself I was never going to go back to the rooms or try to get sober again. And something just happened. I just had this like thing come upon me where I told myself that I showed up at the halfway house. They were going to breathalyze me, and I blew into this breathalyzer and I blew 000, and I was like, what the fuck just happened? I was so confused. And now I work in the industry, so I know what happened. It just wasn't calibrated and just happened to not work with me. But
Yeah.
I knew in that moment, I said, if there is a God out there, this is God, and this is God telling me that I am giving you a second chance to not get caught, not get kicked out right now, and just do this.
Yeah, you're right where you need to be.
Yeah. And so I took that, and I went back to my car, like after the house manager had left. I poured out the rest of the alcohol. I like hid it somewhere. I didn't even finish it. I was drunk as a skunk. I should have gotten my stomach pumped that night. And I went right to bed, and the next day I had gone to a meeting, and I found a sponsor, and I was just like, I can't stop drinking. Please help me. And, I went through the steps.
You had the so Gucci Man comes and gets you. You go away to rehab. You're 9 months sober. You go out for 4 days in relapse, drink. After those 4 days, you go back into the sober. Well, you never left the sober house.
No.
You're still in sober living. Why do you think, looking back at it, there was a relapse after 9 months? You said your friend had a drink, you saw it, and said, I'm having a drink.
I think that, like, I was young. I'm like, I'm a young 19-year-old girl. How do we know I'm an alcoholic? Am I an alcoholic? Did I just have a lot of trauma, and now I went to treatment, and maybe I'm cured. I'm fine. Like, maybe I don't. It was just this, I needed to know. I needed to truly know if I really had an issue. And, when the girl who's out here banging Dilaudid thinks that I'm the one with the problem, I was like, oh, maybe.
When you couldn't stop drinking, you realized, oh, shit, it's been 4 days.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have acceptance.
Step one, honesty to yourself.
Yeah, fully accepted it. And I had to lie about that relapse for the first whole year of my sobriety.
So you didn't get kicked out of your halfway house.
So I had to lie to my sponsor and everyone.
No.
And then I stuck with the lie because I found out that my dad's sobriety, his original sobriety date, was the same exact one as my original.
Oh. So,
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was just like, I need to hold on to this.
Yeah.
It's a sign. And you know, I really did better my life. I did the steps. I got through it. And I think the reason I drank also is because I stopped doing all of those things. I stopped doing this. You know, I kind of just like fell off and stopped calling, and really like that obsession came back that it was never gone because I never finished the steps. You know, the obsession was there. And I remember when I first stopped, I would be like, okay, I'm going to drink tomorrow, and then tomorrow would come. And I literally had to take it one day at a time.
Yeah.
I kept telling myself that I would relapse the next day, and the next day would come, and I would tell myself the next day. And then one day, I remember, I think I was 10 months sober. I was actively working with a sponsor, and I called her, and I said, I don't want to drink anymore. And she was like, yeah, I think you've been thinking this for a while. You're just realizing that you haven't thought that in a while. And it was true. I was like, wow, it's been... like, I'm successful. I'm doing good. I have a job. I'm, like, learning adult things. I was raised by, you know, these old people in the meeting who taught me how to set up doctor's appointments and taught me all of these things that I had no clue. Like, I was raised in the rooms. And I'm so grateful for that. But, yeah, I was about to pick up my year, and everyone's like, it's your year, it's your year, it's your year. And I was out of halfway. I had my own apartment at this point. And I just, like, broke down in my home group. And I was like, I'm a fraud. Like, I can't pick up my medallion.
I have 3 months.
Yeah. No, but I had 10 months at the time.
Oh.
So I, like, could have picked up.
Got it.
Like, I'm just
Okay.
going to pick up again in 2 months. But I broke down and I lost it. And I thought that everyone was going to hate me. And I was so scared. But I just knew deep down I could not pick up this medallion.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
I cannot get up there and pick up my year. And they were like, it's okay. A lot of people relapse before their year. Like, when did you relapse? What's going on? And I'm like, 10 months ago. And they're like, Kat.
Oh.
They're literally like, Kat, what the fuck? Like, just re-pick it up in 2 months. And I did. And it's all been good ever since that. But the rooms, I mean, saved me, raised me, like, gave me a level of intellect and maturity that I never thought that I would be able to gain. Even people who are my age that I grew up with that aren't, you know, they just don't have that spiritual aspect of things. I'm around them and I'm like, how old are you? Like, why do you think like this? And it's just crazy. I'm so grateful for all of that. I'm so grateful I did it early. I'm so grateful that I got all of these opportunities, that everything just like set up perfectly. And I looked back at it and I'm like, you know, during that time, I had such a hard time figuring out what a higher power was and what my God was. And the whole time, you know, God was there every step of the way. Like, God miraculously made that breathalyzer blow 000. Don't know why. I do now, but it's just all of these small, minute things. God.
Yeah. God is in the details.
God's everywhere.
Yeah.
So with the relapse and where you're at now, I had a relapse after 3.5 years of sobriety, and now I have a little over 6 years. I had surgery 3.5 years into sobriety, my first go round. And something I noticed was I was not spiritually fit going into that shoulder surgery.
Oh, I had shoulder surgery too.
And rotator cuff surgery.
Labrum and bicep.
Ah.
Yeah.
Twinsies. No. So I wasn't spiritually fit. And I wasn't ready. I mean, I was looking forward to that surgery. Who looks forward to surgery?
I get the thought, though. Like, I understand it.
And I was like, I'm getting painkillers. This is going to be great. I can, within the guidelines of where I go to meetings, a medical professional is writing me a prescription for painkillers. I was
totally
not
fine.
spiritually fit. I was not connected. I was not actively working steps. I was not praying on a daily basis, meditating, living a sober lifestyle, essentially. I was a dry drunk, and it led me to a relapse. And I've seen that difference. Have you noticed that difference?
Absolutely. So I've actually been in those exact same situations because I was born with like a lot of rare genetic illnesses. That physical pain is still very much a thing. So getting sober was so difficult for me because I'm like, I can't even smoke weed. Like, I can't have anything for the pain.
Yeah.
My physical pain is just like it's probably one of my biggest like downfalls when it comes to being sober, because I don't really have answers for people who struggle with it and are getting sober. I'm like, you kind of just have to like suffer a little bit. But I was in that same situation, but I was an alcoholic, so I had never really done drugs other than when they were prescribed to me, and I hated them because they were prescribed to me as a little kid. I was prescribed painkillers, and I hated them because they'd make me lazy and slow and, you know, less motivated. So thankfully I turned them away, but there was this fear, and I was so scared of being in the position you were in, and, you know, I just didn't want to have to, like, come back into the rooms and pick up throw away 5 years or something like that, that I started to panic because I'm a good panicker. And so I was like, I'm going to do my inventory every single night like I need to. But I've been in those places where I'm so unspiritually fit and I'm hitting this wall. But it's weird because I think at this point it's more about emotional sobriety. Like, I don't think about a drink or a drug. I go straight to, I want to kill myself. Like, the drink and the drug, anything, it's not my first thought anymore. My first thought is, I just want to die when I get to that place. It becomes all about emotional sobriety after a certain point. And but I was scared that I was gonna like the pills, or that, you know, my thoughts on things would change, or that I was gonna, you know, relapse. I was so scared of it that I kind of like set myself up very nicely. But yeah, that was a fear. I ended up hating the pills. I don't understand why people.
That's a good thing.
They made me so dizzy. I was constipated. I couldn't shark tooth hunt. Like,
Shark tooth hunt.
I couldn't shark tooth hunt. I couldn't do anything.
I had the opposite effect.
And you liked it.
I had so much energy. I would literally come to your house and clean your house. Like, what do you want me to do? You want me to clean your house? Like, it was like I was on cocaine.
Mm-hmm.
I had the complete. I would do Oxycontins, Oxy 80s, and I would have the opposite effect. Everyone would hit the floor. I would be like, let's go.
Interesting.
It's funny. Our guest, the one that you knew, he had the same exact reaction as well.
I had the same reaction under anesthesia. So my body, one of my genetic illnesses, it makes me reject anesthetics and like lidocaine and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So numbing agents don't work on me. So I wake up during surgeries and stuff, which is just.
I do too.
It's weird.
But I don't have a genetic.
I'd be scared
Maybe
if you woke up during a surgery.
Well, they have you pinned down. Like, your eyes are taped, you're intubated. Like, if you're up, they don't even know that you're awake, and it's just weird because you can hear everything. You can't feel anything, but you can hear it all.
Oh, I woke up and I had my very first surgery when I was 13. I snapped a ligament in my thumb and like crushed the joint. And so I had to have a pin put in. But I think it was just because I was so anxious about the surgery, and because I was so young, my body metabolized.
Yeah, you probably metabolized
so
it super
fast.
quick.
So I remember I woke up in the middle of the surgery, and they didn't have me pinned down, and I was like, what the fuck, you know, like.
Yeah.
And so they gave me more anesthesia, and then I woke up again 45 minutes after the surgery because I just wanted to get the fuck out of there. Like, I was like, no, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here. So I went home. And I fell asleep immediately. I slept all day, but then I didn't take any pain pills because I was asleep all day. So in the middle of the night, I woke up on the couch screaming bloody murder because I thought my hand was like gonna fall. I can still remember the pain.
At 13 years old, I can only imagine.
Yeah, no,
the thoughts.
I was like, I'm dying. Like, my hand is about to fall off. Yeah, I was really scared. But that's crazy. That's really, yeah.
I had the opposite effect. Like, I went under anesthesia. I pretty much was awake the whole time. I was awake in the recovery room. I like really came to, and everyone, it's all these old people at Oak Regional, and they're all sleeping, and I'm looking around and I'm like, get me the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, you're not allowed out of here until you can stand on your own and put your clothes on. And I was like, all right, bet.
Watch me.
Watch me right now. And they're like, and go to the bathroom by yourself. And I was like, okay. And they're shocked. They're like, oh, I guess we can probably just let her out of here. And I went home and I was up for 3 days straight.
Oh my God.
I did not sleep for 3 days. I was wide awake. It felt like I literally felt like I was on cocaine. I'm like, I did anesthesia. Why am I awake? I couldn't sleep.
Insane.
My mom said that she came and checked on me every day. I'd just be wide awake. And then finally on the third day, she came at, I want to say 1 p.m. and I had sunglasses on. I was in a bathing suit and I was like knocked out in a coma with like this big, you like sleep on your back like with your shoulder just
That's
completely
crazy.
straight.
This shoulder
yeah.
surgery, I'm sorry, what year was this?
This was 2021.
So you were 7 years sober.
Yeah.
Wow. Good for you. You were spiritually fit going
I've
into
literally
that.
been put into more drugs sober than I had when
Oh,
I
my God.
was out there using drugs.
Good for you, though. It says in some literature where I go to meetings, it says if you are spiritually fit,
You can do
you
anything.
can do anything.
And I stand by that. I really think that, these rooms are here to give you your life back. You can do whatever you want if you're spiritually fit. Like, there is nothing that is going to get in your way. And I mean, I've had a lot of things get in my way during my sobriety. I've gone through just ups and downs and so much stuff. And I've gone through so many injuries in sobriety. I'm so sick of them. But yeah, like I'm just so big on that, is that if you stay spiritually fit and and we're not perfect, we're fallible, we're gonna fall short, but if you catch yourself, pick up that phone, get right back into it, you can do whatever you want.
So what do you
travel.
do? What do you do to stay spiritually fit?
So
What are your habits?
I'm big, I need to be near the ocean at all times. That is my happy place, that is my spiritual place, that is where I pray and I meditate. I love the ocean. I love everything about the ocean. Free diving, surfing, paddleboarding. It's crazy because a lot of people just think that this is weird, but the ocean is so much more powerful than me. There's nothing I can do to control it. I could want to go surfing one day and it could be as flat as anything else out there, or it could be windy, and the ocean can decide to take my life at any time. So I just love the ocean. Like, I love that, I have this healthy fear of the ocean, but I also find the most peace in it. I love shark diving. I just love going out there. I love everything. If I didn't have the ocean, I don't know what I would do. Someone tried to pull me out of the state of Florida, I would tape myself to the ground and say, you are not leaving.
What about if they said one-way ticket to Hawaii?
That's the only place that I would possibly consider moving to, although Hawaii suffers just as much as Floridians do with like development and people going there.
I'm sure.
I could not in good faith ever move to Hawaii, and I just don't want them to, like, they're already dealing with the same thing we deal with down here, is overdevelopment, people moving, trying to change everything, ruining the landscape, the nature. The Everglades is one of the most diverse ecosystems in the world, and we're destroying it.
Yeah.
And I hate that. I'm a big environmental conservationist.
That's good.
Do
You're
you
passionate about it.
do you help people today?
Yeah,
that
you
are
said
going
you
through-
work in mental health. I was going to
I
ask
do.
you about that.
I do help people. I try to help people wherever I can. I think that's kind of what, when I'm not doing well, me trying to go help someone else is the best thing I can do. Whether I'm successful or not, I feel good. But I also keep my work and, how I help people outside of work very separately, because I think that's also very important, is I do not want to make money for giving things that were freely given to me. But I do love working in healthcare. As a kid, I always wanted to be a doctor, and then life happened. But I found my way, and I work at this wonderful private practice, and we get to make our own schedules and have the freedom to do certain things. I ran halfway houses for a long time. I worked in treatment centers.
Awesome.
I've had like the privilege of being able to help so many people, and I love it. I love what I do. Sometimes it's very frustrating. I need to have a lot of patience. I take on a lot of different energy, but I love being able to just help them find their way, whether it works or not.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Just doing the work, right? Just showing up and letting God use you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What feedback, or rather, what advice would you have for someone who was in your shoes 10 years ago, struggling with no hope?
it's so hard to say, because even if they're struggling with no hope, they still might not hit that realization that they're ready. But it's just, you just got to take the leap. You know, it's, maybe you've tried everything else. Maybe you haven't tried anything at all, but it's, what are you going to lose? It can't get worse. It can maybe get better. So why not just see if it does get better? And that's kind of, you know, when I was going to get sober, my intention was not to be sober for the rest of my life. I did not think I was going to be sober for the rest of my life. I thought that I was just going to like take a break for a little bit, maybe when I was an adult, be able to have a rum and a Coke on the beach with my neighbors. And my intentions weren't there. I didn't go into it thinking that this was going to be a life thing. And I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow or even later today. Who knows what's going to happen? But the fact that I gave it a shot and my life got a little better, that was enough. I was like, I have a job. I have a place to stay. I have friends. I'm having fun. I can have fun. I don't need to like knit in a meeting in the background. I can still do surfing and paddleboarding and fishing, and like I can go out to a club still if I want to.
Yep.
And like not worry about anything. That was good enough for me. Sold.
Yeah.
I don't know why it works. It just works for
Yeah.
some odd reason. It does. You trust the process, it'll trust you right back. And
Yeah.
I love that. So yeah, if you are out there struggling with whatever it is, doesn't matter whether it's a abusive relationship, bad family dynamic, mental health, especially mental health nowadays, there is help for you. There is help somewhere. And if you can't find help, I will personally find you help. I don't care who they are. If somebody reaches out to me, I will do everything I can to help find them and get them where they need to be, because that is so important. You know, and I think a lot of people don't get the opportunity or think that they have the opportunity to get help, and they do. And nowadays we see more and more mental health stuff, and I specialize in more severe mental health disorders, and they're the ones who, it's like, yes, addiction sucks, yes, eating disorders suck, everything sucks, every form of addiction sucks, but the mental health have been a stigma for so long, and I feel like they're finally starting to get their voice for the past couple of years, and it's so nice that we have the opportunity to start helping them.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Very well said.
Thank you so much for being you.
Yeah.
And making the world a better place. Thanks for coming on and sharing your story.
Thanks for having me. I'm very happy to be here. I will say this. I still do a lot of sports, and I paddleboard across the Atlantic Ocean every single year.
Wait.
Yeah.
That's
What?
I paddleboard 80 miles from the Bahamas back to Florida for cystic fibrosis every year. And that's like been one of my biggest kind of healing things, like that I get to train for that every year.
It's 80 miles?
A little,
Across?
give or take 80, 90, depending on.
Whoa.
Yeah. I leave the Bahamas at 12 a.m. and I have 17 hours to complete the paddle back to Florida.
And it's just you on a paddleboard.
So if you're doing like competitive solo, it's just you on the paddleboard. It is just you on the paddleboard, but I usually have a team, so I have like 3 other paddlers, and we all just paddle together.
That's awesome.
Just keep trucking
for
along.
17 hours.
You don't want to do it in 17 hours. You ideally want to do it in like maybe under 15 hours. But yeah.
Is it tiring?
It's an endurance thing. Yeah. It's tiring. It is. I think
I've never even paddleboarded a mile. Like, I
couldn't
can't
even.
imagine doing that 80 times.
Yeah, but that's where I find my sanity for the most part for the past 4 years, is training for that endurance competition just thing. I find so much peace when I go out there during the sunrise.
It's amazing.
Paddleboard,
That's
and I
so
have dolphins, and like practicing for something like that, whether it's a UFC fight or a marathon or anything, it's so mentally challenging.
Having
like,
a focus.
Am I good enough? Am I going to complete this?
Yeah.
Can I do this? Last year I had gotten really sick and I got airlifted out of the Bahamas before we had to paddle, and I was like defeated. So this year I've been coming back with a vengeance, but I still feel just like very defeated from last year. So I think that like people even pushing themselves to do small things, big things, whatever it is, if you find your thing, like do it and take a break when you need to.
Find your passion, find your purpose. It's funny because I was just reading this thing and it talks about like kind of like if your life is a pie, there are all these different, like you need like self-care, like sleep, you need focus time, you need introspective time, you need connection, you need play time, there's like all these different things or whatever to like lead a healthy, balanced life. But I think so many people struggle with that, like the finding your purpose, finding like a balance, right, between something that brings you joy and something that you can focus on and stretch yourself with, right? Like you have to like you have to be uncomfortable. That's for me, that's when I find the most joy, is when I'm pushing myself to like just beyond where I thought I could go. I'm like, oh wow, there's God and here's me and we're doing this thing and it's like amazing.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it's also not letting yourself get burnt out. I see a lot of people do that all the time where they're just like work, and they don't have any activities that they love. Like they don't have anything that they do. And I tell everyone, I'm like, you need to find an outside source. You have to, whatever it is, find something and do that once, twice, 3 times a week, whatever it is. But do not make this your everyday 24/7. Do not make your work your recovery. Do not make your work your everything. Do not put it before this, that, or the third. And make sure you take that mental health hiatus. Go out, check out, go walk on the beach, go swim in the ocean, go do a puzzle, go do photography, whatever it is, art, whatever.
Your thing.
Do it. Figure it out and do it. Because if you don't, you will get burnt out, and that will be your downfall every single time.
It's a form of meditation, those other outlets that you're taking
100%.
part in.
Meditation does not need to be like a woo-saw, cross my legs,
Cooking.
listen to a guided.
Do you want to know what my meditation is?
Yes.
Your farm.
Yes, but specifically on my farm.
Ooh.
Killing the chickens.
Picking up the poop.
That's one. I mean, I've learned. That's more of like a trauma healing. Pressure washing.
Oh, I love that. Wait.
I pressure washed my entire driveway this week.
That sounds like so much fun.
Oh,
I would be so satisfied.
Therapeutic.
Sometimes it'll be like 3 a.m. and I'm on Facebook and I'm watching this guy pressure wash like driveways.
I don't watch. I do it. I got a gas one too. It's
I
like a
want
powerful
that.
puppy. Yeah.
You should have filmed the whole thing. We could have put it on our YouTube
Am
channel.
I gonna film me in my bikini with the emus?
Yes.
She's got
Oh
emus.
my gosh.
She's
I
got
love
emus.
that.
They're
And
awesome.
they shit like every single
Emus
time. Like
are
I'll
savages.
clean, and then they shit right where I just cleaned.
Yeah,
and I'm
emus are
like,
savages.
Anyways.
Can I share? I got to share one really quick thing before we wrap up.
Yeah.
So,
Just share.
my daughter is friends with Kayla's son. They're close in age. And then there was, I think, Steve's kids as well. The little girl, the young
Anna.
one. She's 5.
Juju.
She's 5. So there's the 3 of them. It's 2 girls and a boy, her son. And they're walking across her backyard. And the 2 emus are just like
They're just coming to say hi.
They were
looking at
totally
the
going to
kids.
peck the shit out of their
they're
head.
not.
They
They're
were, like-
very friendly.
They were at a distance, and the 3 kids, it's 4 and 5-year-old kids. They're like walking, so they're like, all right, the emus, we don't know if they see us. You could see it in like their walking.
It's like
pattern.
they're
like they're
pretending
nervous
like
And
walk.
then, and then they're like, oh my God, they see us. And then they start fast walking. And then all of a sudden the emus start coming out, and they're like, run!
Have
And
they
have to start
never
running.
watched Jurassic Park?
They
Spot you, you don't move, you freeze.
Oh, that's so funny.
It was so cute.
You don't move, it can't see
I
you.
saw it with Steve's wife. We were both just like,
Watching them like panic run to the trampoline. Get to safety.
to the trampoline. They got in. It's a netted trampoline, so they were safe in there.
I think the best advice for anyone, though, if you're dealing with like any sort of predator or apex predator,
Stay still.
the faster you run, the more splashes you make, you look like an injured and diseased animal. Like,
Noted.
you look like easy prey.
Well, my emus are not predators, okay?
No, they're super friendly.
They're lovers.
Yeah, you make eye contact,
they
you
are.
assert your dominance. You're fine.
The kids are like.
No, I'm no.
Maybe not
That's
alligators,
so funny.
though.
I should have looked on the camera to see if I had
That would have been
footage of it.
You should still go back and definitely.
It was like 7 o'clock that night.
Okay.
Yeah.
Those things are amazing. I love that.
Yeah, they're fun critters. We have fun.
Well, thank you, Kat.
Yes, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And
You guys are the best.
keep doing your
Thank
thing.
you.
Thanks. Thanks for having me.
P.S. You had no need to be nervous. You were amazing.
It was actually very comfortable.
Good.
Y'all are like
Good.
very comfortable people.